This is AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, an almost regularly scheduled open discussion on audio and video in higher education. We'll sound off about our most brilliant ideas, our dumbest mistakes, and everything in between. And because this conversation will almost certainly go off the rails at some point, we'll end up covering just about everything else. And now, the AV SuperFriends. For November 11th, 2022, it's the AV SuperFriends Off the Rails. Welcome back, everybody. Time for another Friday afternoon podcast adventure with the AV SuperFriends. My name's Chris Dector. I'm joined today by Jamie, Mark, Larry, and Justin. And on today's show, we're going to discuss AR and VR again.
It's never going away.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we have to.
All
right.
But
contractually,
Larry's going to tell us about his cool new esports space at UNCG. We'll hear all about that. But first, it's time for, you guessed it, the AV news.
Mm-hmm.
And this is AV related. It's Zoom related by name, but in general. So this article, link is in the show notes down below, comes from The Verge, of all places, because it's kind of going semi-mainstream. But AMC Theaters announced they are going to start renting out and whatever that means, but turning their theater auditoriums into giant Zoom auditoriums for business meetings, which is weird. I mean, I guess kudos to them for thinking outside the box because there's nobody in there at 9 a.m, but this is kind of a weird approach.
Didn't we have a whole show talking about not doing this exact thing?
Maybe.
Not going to the movies?
In large auditoriums on campus? Like we,
the right environment.
Or is that the, am I just thinking, am I off?
You're thinking again? Yeah, don't think again.
Don't think.
Never.
I'm curious on how all in on this they are.
It's just a webcam at the front of the room.
Print. I mean, it's in a news article.
Yeah,
so.
I'm with Larry. They're going to 100% half-ass this.
Well, they're
That's
like,
what I mean.
premium like sound and audio experience. And I'm like, will it be? Will it really be?
For my laptop microphone when I'm out in the yard on my bad Wi-Fi, dropping in and out, yeah, it'll sound great.
When I first saw this,
and that's my thing. Are they going to change the lights? None of those.
Yeah, it's just going to get that all the time.
None of those theaters are built with any kind of real lighting, and
they'll turn on the fluorescent cleaning lights.
Well, and the acoustics are built in such a way that you can't hear the people sitting next to you. And so how's the audio, the far side, supposed to hear anyone in the room?
From all 22 speakers, Larry.
Yeah.
And then James Earl Jones comes on and you'll be able to feel the resonance in his bassy voice.
Here's what this really
Zoom
is.
meeting.
You know what this really is? This is a way for AMC to fake corporations out into thinking they have a good Zoom room. And corporations are going to buy it. And they're going to... And their employees are going to treat it like a field trip and eat the popcorn and the nachos because we're going to have a day-long meeting.
You are absolutely right.
And it's just
complete joke, and they're going to make money. And it's going to, that's what makes us angry.
And it's
going
to
to
be a field trip.
Are they going to sell popcorn for the meetings? Because that's what I
it said popcorn will be available there.
Popcorn. You might just be careful with the nachos in movie theaters. That's all I got to say.
Yes, you'll be able to get popcorn and soda during all hands meetings.
I want to see someone standing up there with their big buttery greasy popcorn and they're trying to work the laptop.
55-ounce Sprite or Coke or whatever.
I can't authenticate.
What network is this on?
Hear me out. Everybody, we're going to have this meeting at AMC and select a few of you are invited to join us from AMC. Welcome everybody to the quarterly report. Everybody that is located at the Kansas City AMC are now laid off. Thank you for joining.
Sure. Enjoy it. But we do have a movie you guys can stick around and watch afterwards if you would like to.
After the showing of Office Space. Hint, hint.
You can pick up your red stapler on the way out the door because that's all you're getting.
Yeah, and the only person that was remote is the boss doing the firing.
Mm-hmm. But he's on a giant panoramic screen now.
He's big.
Yeah. The 21:9 thing.
Where are they going to the cameras? I'm just, wow.
So there's another potential audience for this, and that's people who don't have an office. Mm-hmm. So if you have one of those companies where everybody is remote, or you've got a few people spread around the town sort of thing. So there's only, the office with the receiving dock is only 3 people sort of thing, and everyone else is in various, at their homes or whatever. and you do want to bring them together, it is an opportunity to do that in a purpose-built venue. But Larry, you're right. The acoustics go the wrong direction. They'll probably put a PTZ camera on a tripod, and they're going to hand around 2 stick mics, and that's going to be their Zoom
If
system.
you had trouble with them falling asleep before in uncomfortable chairs, put your feet up in those new recliner things.
Yeah, but that's what the 55-ounce Coke is for. Like, you have to drink all
Chris,
this
I
caffeine.
hear that kind of like example of how it could be useful, but those companies are used to doing their entire business over Zoom. Why are they getting together to do business over Zoom?
They're getting together on Zoom, Larry. Yeah, I don't know.
We
this
just
whole
talked
thing,
about this whole thing about like wasting time in meetings. This is like the pinnacle of the most amount of time you can actually waste as a business. Like here it is. We have a
Well,
venue
and like
that's
Justin
like
said, it'll be an
comfortable for
all-day
wasting
Zoom
time.
meeting. So they're going to not just waste 2 hours; they're going to waste 7.5 hours of your day, and then everyone's going to go eat popcorn, and then blah blah blah. So
It's gonna be nice.
it's a weird concept. I don't know. I mean, hey, if it works, great. But I kudos to whoever thought up this as a way, and I think you're 100% right, a way to bilk people out of hey, dumb companies,
money grab.
rent our auditorium for $1,000.
Absolutely, and it's only it strategically it makes tons of financial sense because this is the time of year where you have all hands on meetings, and I would imagine that it is going to be everybody come in here, let's have our quick end of the year rah and watch a movie, and that's the end of it, and move on. And they're going to make not a boatload of money, but they're going to make enough. Let's face it,
the auditoriums are sitting.
They're
They're sitting empty in the mornings.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the first show of the day? 10:30, 11 o'clock. So prior to that,
Well, have any of you had like your quarterly plenary whatever style meetings on your campuses? Are you doing those live or are you doing those kind of canned recorded nowadays? Or if you're even doing them all, we're doing them recorded and quasi live now. So I think this.
wait, someone pre-records their messages and then you have to go to a space and watch it?
Well, you on Zoom,
What?
right? This would be like, just like you said, Jamie, like, oh, let's all get together. We're gonna play the quarterly. The CIO is gonna say their thing and blah blah blah, and then we're gonna have a showing of Milo and Otis afterwards, or whatever it's going to be, and then that way it's safe for the whole family. And bring your kids. You guys got popcorn too, right? It's gonna
Bring your kids
be
to see
all
Dad
those
get
things.
fired.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun for the whole family.
No, it does.
Hey, kids, have you had Christmas yet? No. Well, you ain't gonna.
Way
Exactly.
to go, AMC, for creatively using your spaces. But oh my God,
You know, there's a weird plane here. There's the whole like the stock play, like the anti piece. We all saw the AMC like stock piece. Is this just them getting back at big business? Like, you know what, you guys shorted us and all this stuff. You know what, we're gonna just take some money from you. So here we are, line up. We're taking your money, and for everybody who tried to like bring us down, come on, have your Zoom meetings. Bring it in.
Yeah. They're trying to make up for the pandemic, I guess, right?
I'm just
Do
trying to
some
figure
lost
out where you
revenue.
put the camera in order to get proper sight lines.
Oh, you put it in the back of the room. Just throw it in the back of the room.
You want to get the audience. Like, how do you get that?
Just point
Larry,
the PTZ down and look at everybody's back of their heads.
You are overthinking this. You
You're
ride
thinking-
a bicycle.
no,
you
no.
ride a bicycle, right?
Owl cam,
Exactly.
right? You stick it
Owl
in the
cam.
middle.
You know that alleyway in the middle?
Done.
On your
right
bike
there.
helmet, you can have the GoPro face out, or you can have the stem that faces back. You just put it on the stem, and they walk around, and their face is always live on screen. You're overthinking this, man. Just GoPro all the way.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, we all agree that, right? This is going to be amazing to watch play out. So, I mean, I'm excited. I'm absolutely excited.
I want to attend one of them just so I can
Well, that's the
experience
thing
it.
is I want to
That's-
experience how bad it is. I'm like, okay,
All right,
well,
so here's
the movie
the
was
question.
all right, you know.
There's 5 of us on this call right now, and several thousand people listen to our show. So how many of us are going to have a CIO or somebody come to us and say, "Hey, did you hear about this thing that AMC's doing? Can we do that here?"
Yes.
The first person to like send us a picture of you having an all hands meeting at an AMC theater, send it to
I'll
the AV
send you a
Super
Yeti.
Friends. We will
I'll
send you some free swag. We want to see it,
Yeah.
date it, make it happen.
You get
I
an
will
AVSF
personally
Yeti
send
that,
out
that
a
Justin
Yeti.
has personally
It did-
drank from.
You
Yeah,
don't cheat
without
us.
washing
Don't
it.
cheat us. Don't
No.
don't be somebody that cheats us and does
gotta
the
be real.
stupid. I got access to one and put Zoom up there just from my own laptop. No, I mean make it a real meeting and
Yeah,
send
let me
us
see.
the photo, and you'll get some cool stuff.
Yeah, we'll send it to you. And then we'll bring you on the show and you can tell us how it went because I want to know.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of terrible technologies being used inappropriately, we're going to talk about AR and VR. But first, una commercialo.
Hey y'all, I've got this new show I got to tell you about. It's called AVSF Live. That's LIVE exclamation point. First off, all you need to do is go to avsf.live.live, not .com, not .net, but .live. Yes, it's a website, does work. We're going to try out this new live video thing. It's probably going to go over like a hair in a biscuit. You got to check it out. Come to the tweeters and look us up on LinkedIn to find out more information. We'll see y'all soon.
Y'all heard about this augmented reality and virtual reality stuff? Is this a thing?
No,
is this real?
What is that? Is that a? Yeah. Can you define that for me, please?
No, and we've tried that. We even litigated that. And we still can't fully define it.
Yeah. AR is just actual reality.
It's your actual reality.
Yes.
So yeah, you've got AR and you've got mixed reality, extended reality, VR spaces, all these things, and they come up as buzzwords. Same thing with AI. I have AI-driven control processors. No, you don't. You have 3 scripts that are running.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. It's one of those topics that keeps coming back, and I think we brought this up from the standpoint of like, all right, are these augmented, mixed, virtual realities? Is this an actual thing? And what is that? What does that? What's that mean? What do we see that to mean? And also, I'm going to say I want to preface this conversation because it comes up every freaking time. We're talking about wide scale, general use cases, not your specialized, one-off, highly customized visualization studios. I get it. Those things exist. They are real. They serve a purpose. Everybody has 1 or maybe 2 of those at most. You don't go build 100 of them, 200 of them, whatever. So, but anyway, back to the earlier or the overall topic here. EDUCAUSE was last month, CCMC was last month, and everyone likes to talk about these things. Oh, what are we all doing for AR and VR? And I'll tell you what you're doing is nothing, nor will you ever. But I wanted to,
I ain't doing shit.
Well, let me be the bad guy. Let me be the bad guy.
Larry,
be
the bad guy too.
You can be the bad guy too.
Mark likes to spin definitions to fit, which makes sense. I'm
not going to.
It's okay.
I won't.
Mark's
going to
tell us about that
far.
agriculture project again.
No. There's more of that coming.
That.
That's still going. I will agree that you will not see this roll out in the next 10 years in the standard classroom environment.
Or ever, but yes.
No, maybe not. But there are venues you're going to have on campus that'll be AR, VR, immersive, mixed reality pieces that are like theater environments that are going to look a whole hell of a lot like giant auditoriums that'll be very tech heavy and they'll be used for teaching and learning, but they will not represent like the norm. And because we're going to have one of those coming soon to my campus.
And I'll take a step even more than Mark.
Wait, Larry, hold on. Mark just said we're going to have one of those.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, go ahead, Larry. Go, Larry.
I'll take a step even more than Mark. Like, you're thinking about this wrong if you're thinking about the physical spaces. They might not be in your standard classroom, but they're going to be in your standard LMS. Mm-hmm. Instructors are going to start assigning things through the augmented reality as soon as augmented reality technology becomes fashionable. Once that happens,
fashionable.
I don't disagree. Larry, you've convinced me. I need to, at all points further, talk about spaces versus the technology. 100% agree. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes. So continue. That's because that is where it's going to happen. But yes.
Yeah. So there are pundits that are saying that the whole goggly piece of this whole thing, and until there's a fashionable thing, like you said, Larry, we probably won't see that level be ubiquitously deployed. I think jumping off at a point where we say what's more likely, AR, I think is the more likely piece we will see. We can get into how that may work. Maybe that may be the angle we want to talk about a little bit, because how would AR roll out today in a classroom? Are any of you seeing it? Because I think you are. You just may not realize it.
Is this where we start talking about the QR code thing?
Sure. I think that's a low barrier to get in. Like the QR code, an instructor putting a QR code on a screen that takes students to a site that they have on their phones, I believe meets the definition of AR to me. Convince me I'm wrong.
Yeah. And I was going to start loosely defining like the with direct view walls becoming more affordable and now being utilized in motion pictures. We're stretching here, right? But to have experiences where an instructor is utilizing some of those same tools in front of this giant video wall of basically a Disney ride in the classroom. But again, we are a long way out from that being the norm as far as the one-offs, which I think is what we're trying to define here, is how would you use this in a more standardized, ubiquitous way and not in a this is special? Because even Mark, you said we'll have one.
Yeah, but it all starts with one. You have to start somewhere.
Right.
Like we started with one round room, and now how many round rooms exist across the country?
Starts with one.
2.
You can't start with 400. Why are you even getting in it?
Right, but I think
Well,
if I had a space that had a giant screen at the stage, I think it would be used right away. If we had a venue that was set up, people would use their content for that, just as really simplified, put themselves in front of a display.
And I've even gone so far as to tell instructors who are trying to take their hybrid, flex, whatever you want to call it today, modality a step further and use the green screen like a weather person. I mean, the weather person is using a green screen behind them, and it looks like on TV that they're pointing at the clouds, and there's the sun, right? We all see that, but
so
does that count? Is that what we're saying about extended? I guess that's extended.
No.
It could be if you build that background in an Unreal Engine and then you're tying in that aspect. I mean, you could make that a VR experience pretty easily for the students who aren't in the room.
Right.
I'm not sure.
But my point is, I would disagree that putting green screen back there and doing some sort of keyed content is not. It's not part of this, and here's why: because they cannot see nor interact with it. They can see it over on another monitor. It's not the same thing.
Going to be that way.
No,
now,
if
you are going to build an overall a large display where I can see and interact with that content, and I'm manipulating things on the fly and whatever, yeah, I can maybe get there, but I'm still.
And that's where I know it's a stretch, but I mean, right now that's what's available to almost all of us, not the direct viewed Lucasfilm.
Well, Justin, what do you got?
Motion tracking.
Justin, you wanted to jump in here or something?
I got one of those things you call a stupid question.
Okay.
So
bring it in.
When we're talking about all this stuff, I haven't heard anything new. So are we as a society just coming up with a new term that all these things fit into that we've been doing since the 80s, like green screen and QR codes since the early 2000s? I mean, I haven't heard anyone talk about anything new.
See, you're making my same point that I made when we litigated this last year, is that we're already doing it. Like a screen projecting content onto a wall is AR. Like you are interacting with that for the people in the room.
That proves my point where we made up a term that all these other things that existed now just fit into.
Well, I think
there's nothing new about it.
That goes along with that is we're taking a technology that doesn't really fit within a standard classroom experience, and we're trying to figure out, well, how is this going to work in a standard classroom? It's not. Like I was just on a call with other schools within the NC systems, and we were talking about innovative learning spaces. And there were at least 2 of them that created caves with 7.1 monitors everywhere so that they can experience a VR scenario as a class, which takes away part of the aspects of being in a VR experience.
I watched Avatar that way.
It's not new, but that's because we're trying to take the modality that works for that, the pedagogy that fits that scenario in a classroom.
Okay.
It doesn't.
I will agree with that. We are guilty right now of forcing the technology into our known pedagogies instead of changing the pedagogy to match the technology, which we bitch about all the time.
I just think
we're fit the teaching, not the other way around.
I just think we're calling old shit AR.
Well, I think we could tweak some things to have a more immersive experience. And I think that's where we start to blend this piece a little bit, where if we had a direct video wall or something and you had cameras that were timed aligned to the refresh, you could actually capture and have an online experience that's very immersive. Even if you had a direct view wall, an instructor who has configured their content to interact with it right there, that is more immersive. That would kind of meet those edge case scenarios of AR-ish reality, right? So we're right there. It's a matter of, it does go back to the instructor knowing what it is they're even doing and what their content is and how to interact with it. I think that is the beginning.
I think that's the best description yet, Mark. The AR-ish type thing we're trying to do here, right? And it's because it's so loosely defined that we're just trying to fill this AR definition with things that we are accustomed to and know, and trying to cram it into this bucket. And we all know that AR in 10 years is going to look much different than it does today.
Well, I think there's a couple. Well, I think it will look different.
I would hope. I mean, my God.
It'll be in my
Jesus
eyeballs.
Christ.
All of your large universities across the country are clamoring over research dollars.
Yeah.
Part of the research grant process is the output mode. What are you doing with your data? How are you interacting with it? It's usually part of the grant process. So there's a lot of money swirling around right now for engagement venues and what to do with that data. And even the federal government's giving lots of money out there to have very interactive and immersive data sets from this research. Research is everything.
And I mentioned that the visualization studios are a thing.
It is visualization.
Specialized, purpose-built space, looking at specialized, customizable data is absolutely a thing.
So
I'm not discounting that.
If you have that highly detailed, unique, immersive data visualization studio, and now let's flip this coin over. Let's talk about the student arms race. Every university is out there clamoring to bring in the students. That's why we're hearing it. AR, VR, because they want to align with what students want. They want to bring it in. And so they can marry this research visualization output with this AR, VR, and have both sides of it, the research and the student experience. It's like the perfect storm for higher education. So that's where this is really coming from, right? We want to recruit students and we want to get federal dollars for research. That's what we're trying to do.
And I think students are more comfortable with the AR experience than we are. They are used to having technology augment their understanding of the world in such a way that most of our faculty just hasn't experienced just. Yeah.
Well, I would disagree. I think some of them may have, and they don't even know it based upon the definition
some of them
AR.
have, and some of them are there, but not all.
Like AR could be anything. Like, oh,
Justin,
shit.
Here's a spoiler. We're in AR right now.
Yeah, like my reality is augmented by you clowns, right? I mean, I'm seeing you all right here, right?
Whisper in your ear, Justin. Hey. Oh, you all heard that too. Sorry.
You can't see me right now, but I'm looking around the room. So the only AR experience I have is when I pull out my phone and put my camera in front of my Ubiquity switch, and it shows me like virtual ports. Like, oh, that's cool. That's the only thing I've done.
Those hardcore virtual ports.
Even like IKEA has, and Home Depot and Lowe's, they all have their apps where you can.
A lot of AV manufacturers do that too. Let me see a planar monitor on this wall in this room. I have used that, and you did that years ago. Here's what your video wall could look like. Boom.
Did that years ago.
And there's the Hellsberg diamonds. You can go in and try it on and never touch the whatever. Or
my precious collection of Fabergé eggs behind me.
You go and you can try on the dress without ever touching the dress. Now that's all cool and fun and fancy, but it young people don't seem to mind, but some folks, I mean,
these youngins,
we talk about it all the time of like, well, how does you take this Home Depot app and you put it in your room and you turn around and guess what? Home Depot now knows your room. Right? And we got to get over some of that. We have to get over some of that too. It's funny, the people that buy the popular talking speaker and but then don't want to use their cell phone because they're being tracked. And I wonder if that's going to hold up some of this AR VR stuff. Is that Big Brother? Is it a fear that can we get over that in our institutions? In security, can we get over the fear that it's Big Brother?
The security does raise a legitimate point, because I mean we had some issues here with people, even with the 2-factor, where they started getting prompted for duo stuff and they were just approving it because they're so used to seeing it. So it's becoming kind of white noise to them. Oh, I clicked on something and I got a duo prompt on my phone. I'll go say yes. And so the security office had to reach out and say, honestly, any student materials, any course materials, anything like that should not be on, Google servers or Dropbox or things. We provide secure and alternate locations for these things, and that's where it needs to go. But to your point, Jamie, it's the stuff that's going to come from those consumer level things, it's going to be students bringing this in. The AR, and I would agree, I'm going to temper my initial comment here, but AR is where it's going to happen first. And it's going to happen carried in each pocket by each student on their device that they go get for functionally for free. And they're using, Mint Mobile now, and they're paying $9 a month for a very powerful device, and that's it, that has real-time data connections and all these sensors, and that's where it's going to happen. And so, to your point, Mark, having savvy instructors who can start leveraging that to say, I'm just going to be showing the same information, we're going to have the same types of discussions, or it's going to be flipped classroom, and they're going to be looking at the same stuff online, but I'm also going to provide an ability to scan this code or look at this thing, and they can interact with whatever on their phone. Yes, that is where it's going to happen. Absolutely. Because that's going to be that. A, Justin, to your point, that's already there. And B, that's much more lower cost of entry to get that done when we're not building spaces. You are 100% correct on that, Larry. I stand corrected that we need to separate spaces from the technology.
I think it's communication fundamentally. I think just a well curated back channel for communication with students and faculty in a room itself is AR. Right? If students can have a conversation, you've been just like in an LMS where students can actually have a live chat and ask questions and answer questions while an instructor is teaching. That's very simple AR. That's very powerful. Then it creates a more immersive experience for students.
Would that second screen, I like the idea of this. Would that second screen be only that channel, that back channel, would that only be visible to the students, or would they put that up front?
I've seen it both ways. Do you have any classes where you have like the Google person who's just keeping everybody honest? It's Google, like there's a screen set up and they're literally Googling things on the internet, trying to find answers for questions that come up while an instructor is teaching. Have you ever seen that happen in a classroom?
It's almost like real-time fact checking.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful because your students are actually there and their attention is on what's going on. They have this parallel data stream coming at them and the instructor, and it's pretty wild to watch it. Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that. Now, the back channel chats, whether it's internally within the student group or it's public, I do like the idea of having that same LMS external chat on a second monitor.
Yeah.
Take that 21:9 that you're not using anymore, turn it on its side, stick it over on the edge, and make it a chat window.
It's the new standard, Jamie.
Done.
Well, yeah, now you can turn it vertical.
Oh,
and we have a use for it. Now it's useful.
Jamie, do you remember, what was that entrepreneurship group we used to set up at the block school 10 years ago? And they would come in and we would put the side monitors to show Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so what they were encouraging was people who were, because we would live stream it, people who were in the room or people who were online could interact on Twitter while this presentation series was going on. I can't remember the name of that group, but it was kind of cool.
I think now these things, the baby's first step was Zoom. We're all getting used to the fact that there's a chat, or YouTube chats during live shows. We see these things now, and maybe they're starting to catch on.
YouTube won't catch on.
No, I don't know. It's going to be a little bit, and it's going to be challenging. And as we always say, that content will drive what we're actually asked to produce. I don't see a lot that we're able today to go, we're going to put this in because it's coming next year. Because what is it?
But we're going to have to be knowledgeable, because at some point, if the students are bringing it in their pocket, and that's the expectation, we have the equity experience that we have to at least consider. And we're going to have accessible equipment to provide to the students, because that is going to be classroom technology.
It is. And the equity piece to me is really powerful, because that back channel experience we just talked about gives people a voice that otherwise may not, right? They can't, or for whatever reason, they may not want to speak up in a class, but guess what? They'll gladly send a text or
that's a good point,
a stream of whatever to that session and not have to call attention to themselves in the room and still get their answer, right? And so, or be integrated within the actual class experience, and
Mark,
they're not just sitting in the back of the room.
According to Wikipedia that I just looked up and Chris just edited, you're wrong.
That's okay.
I'm still typing, Jamie. No, that's an interesting point about the equity sort of thing, that having a couple of Chromebooks or tablets or something available for those to participate, and it may give them a voice in a space where they don't want to speak up. That is an intriguing idea. So I like this idea of leveraging this kind of secondary content stream, second screen, back channel, whatever you want to call it. It's an interesting concept to explore, because And here's what I like about it. From the standpoint of the spaces that I have to build, I don't really have to do much to those to fully support that.
And I think that the piece of this is, I believe that the average technology user is more savvy with data flow now. They understand the directionality of what's going on. They know outbound, they know inbound. And I think faculty are becoming more aware of it. Students are definitely more aware of it, and they can build around that and be very intentional. So they have control of what information they want to send and in what direction, because I think the direction flow of the data is the actual narrative here.
Well, so backing up a little bit, the way I see this, and the biggest problem with all of this is the mass majority of people out there, when I say AR, they are not thinking of all these examples that we just went through. I'm not saying that they're not valid examples. I'm just saying the mass people out there with all the marketing and Zuckerbergs out there do not see AR. So when we're in that conversation, are we going to have to explain that
Probably
QR codes is AR to all these faculty 100 times over every time? And then they're going to go, no, we just want the goggles. And then there's this conversation, and it's like,
but that's your job.
We're not getting anywhere, you know?
Yeah.
That's the job,
though. I mean,
that
to
is the
introduce
job.
the tools that they could use, and the tools
Because
might
we have
no longer
faculty that are telling me that they want to get the VR goggles to see their credentialing program on the blockchain. And I'm like, holy shit fire.
Like
that's where you just
You just
and I
used a
assume,
ton of buzzwords.
yeah.
Yeah, that was all of it. That was great.
That's what this is what they told me. And I went,
that's like the ask though. That's your opportunity that somebody's hungry to do something different. Maybe they don't know all the bells and whistles and ins and outs, but the fact that they know that there's something else that they could be doing, that's the opportunity. That's the door open. Go put your foot in it and find a way to do something different.
If you go in the black web, then
yeah. Well, I responded with, okay. And I try not to laugh.
Please go
and
further.
I said, what are you trying to do? And then she went down this credentialing program. I was like, great. Mm-hmm. Focus on that and don't worry about the goggles. But we have to have the goggles for the credentials.
No.
Like, but what are you trying to do?
There's a world where you could, but you don't need to. No.
And I was like, holy smokes.
Well, especially if the credentials are about using goggles. But
not until we get heads-up displays in our glasses, so as we walk around, we see Chris's points up above his head, and
which
Justin's
is where it will come, I think.
Yes.
I think as soon as the next Google Glasses hit, or Apple Glasses.
Apple Glasses.
It'll be somebody else. I don't disagree with that, but it's not going to be Google.
No, Justin, I think you're right, is that there is confusion. In the media at large has not done a very good job of explaining the difference between AR, VR, NFTs, blockchain, Metaverse. All these things get lumped into one big thing.
Exactly.
In Bitcoin, yeah, exactly. In crypto, all of a sudden it's all lumped into one big thing. But
I want to crypto blockchain my credential program for micro VR AR.
Right.
Like,
I bet if you announced a session like that, people would show up.
This is it right now. We're
like
doing
1,000 people to like buy tickets for $50 a piece. But like, what is this shit going to be like?
We'll have some of that coming in the spring. So
and I'm going to come in and we'll go, QR code.
Let me I'll sum it up here. It's all Web 3, right? It's all Web 3. Here we are. And we're going to
Web 3. Hell, I'm going to Web 4. Screw you. I'm skipping 3.
And I'm using IP8 to get there.
Ooh,
yeah, you have to use IP7. It's one more IP on there. But to your point, Justin, somebody confused in that way because they've heard these terms. They kind of think they need to know what they are and want to use them, sort of thing. That shows there's awareness out there, but you're exactly right that there's not good like understanding and comprehension of that.
And most people need to experience it in a way. You're not going to read your way to being savvy in it. You need to really experience what's going on. And when you do experience, you're like, oh, that's what that was. That's what that is. And it changes. And now you're more informed and it'll change your perspective. So going back to the original ask, I do believe it is coming. The AR VR is coming. It's already here. We're going to see it's going to trickle in. And Chris, you're going to be wearing goggles everywhere soon. It's happening.
I'm wearing goggles right
He
now.
already does.
I wear goggles just so I can see stuff. If I take these off, check it out. Everything is like in VR mode because I can't see crap. It's like, oh, look at that. I do want to circle back to the very beginning on this conversation. I think we're going to see a stratification of this. The VR and the general understanding of VR is a specialized, purpose-built system, space, whatever it is. I have to have a whole bunch of stuff to do it. That's never going to take off. That has not changed fundamentally in over 30, almost 40 years, since the days of going to the science center when you were a kid and they strap your head in goggles and you go visit Spain or go to Egypt. I heard somebody talk about that unironically a few weeks ago. It's like, oh, it's really cool. A class can travel to Egypt. I'm like, yeah, I did that when I was 6. Come on, let's move on. That's where people think, to your point, Justin, that's what they think of when they hear VR. That's never going to happen wide scale. The AR stuff that's going to sneak in through a student's pocket, that's where the interest is. And I would agree. You guys have convinced me. I'm 100% on board with that now, and I will now fight people otherwise. But it's going to be this kind of back channel, shared additional content streams, this secondary secondary manipulation of content in real time, easy access, real time, ubiquitous access. What are some other buzzwords we can put in here? AI driven blockchain crypto. That's where this is going to happen, and I think it's going to sneak in
for the show.
And meta tags. It's all meta tags, Mark.
Well, important.
But it's going to sneak in regardless of our participation or not. And that'll be interesting about it. The good news is I think we have ways to display and share that content in a classroom if students bring it with them. That's a relatively easy thing for us to do. Hell, take your single, here, both people's minds with the room you already have now. Don't change a single thing. Take your modal display where people just show PowerPoint taking up the entire screen, run that in a window, move that over slightly. Boom. Secondary content screen on the right.
So I think oversize everything.
Yeah, and make it really big so I can read it. Yes.
I think Larry's
because if I take off my goggles, I can't see anything.
Is like we may not be doing much about it right now, or we may be doubters, but know about it. Be prepared to be informed about it, so that when it comes up, you're not standing there holding yourself.
Yeah. I think that the undercurrent here is it's really important. Is my belief that the AR will be first in the string is that
agreed.
It's easy low barrier entry because the tools to create the data stream already exist. It's your phone, it's your computer, it's already out there. The platforms exist to bring it in, where you need people to be able to make the content with no friction at all. How would you guys go about making VR content right now? It's not very, very easy. So that therein lies
first, I go buy some goggles.
Right.
I would put my phone in front of the iPad and then record that recording me.
Sure. Right. But there's truth in that because we already have the ability.
Justin doing that, trying to hold two of them.
Yeah.
And there is now a whole group of people in the world going, aha!
Got it. I can do VR now. Justin told me how to do VR correctly.
I just have 2 phones and put them both side by side.
But it's all about that
3D VR.
But you're right, Mark. It's going to come in. It's easy for students to access. They're used to doing it. Your average, and I bring this up every now and then, and some people don't like when I say it, but your average 19-year-old is very adept at this stuff. They've grown up with it. They live it. They have a device in their pocket that they replace every 3 or 4 years that is far more powerful than anything we could provide them in a classroom to say, we're going to buy that. Remember those, the cows, the carts, or the computers on wheels? We're going to roll this stuff in. That's such a pain to deal with. And now they just bring it in. And yes, there's an equity concern. And maybe we need to provide some alternate devices so everyone has the ability to participate. I understand that. But that's where it's coming in. It's from the students, and they will absolutely drive it. And they're not going to ask. They're just going to do it.
You have digital native students. They're going to expect that the classroom is digitally native as well. And their faculty are digitally native. And if they don't get that, they will go somewhere they can.
Except here, they don't have another choice.
Speaking of digitally native, do you think they'll digitally native their way into our upcoming shows?
Hopefully.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Want to? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. Because I meant to talk about it before and I forgot.
There's notes.
Awesome.
I don't know.
There's notes and I'm not even looking at. Well, I have 2 notes open. This is the problem.
Yeah, there's digitally native their way into our new show.
Yeah.
So thanks to Jamie's awkward segue here, because we're forcing our conversation here. Here's some upcoming stuff that the AV SuperFriends are doing. We are going to do another live show, AVSF Live. We're going live, and this is where I fall apart because I don't have the notes open.
And it's going to have AR
9th,
channels.
9th.
There will be
December
back
9th.
communication.
Thank you.
Yeah. December 9th.
Thank you, Larry. Everyone else is just throwing in random nonsense. Larry actually provides information.
Sorry.
Teacher's
So
pit.
on December 9th, we are going to be doing another AVSF live show, and we're going to do that at, help me here, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. Those of us in the weird time zones have to do the math.
Yeah, figure it out.
This is going to be our Christmas show. It's December. It's time for Christmas. We're inviting you all to our AVSF Christmas office party.
Spectacular.
We're going to have our it is spectacular or mediocre. Our Christmas mediocre.
Airing of grievances.
Can we call it plus? The AV Live plus?
Our with the
minus
feats of strength.
It's going to be AVSF Live minus.
AVSF Live. Oh.
Those of you who are
goes
Avixa
into
members,
marketing.
there's a special offer for you. If you're an Avixa member, this will cost you 1 RU.
One
to
RU
attend.
to get in.
That's right.
Yep. We'll bounce right the door.
We'll submit the viewers, and Avixa will track your IPs and remove 1 RU from your transcript. We'll have some special guests we're going to have on the show. Some special guests will join us periodically, and we want to take calls from you. We now have the ability to do audio and video calls from you in the audience. We will be streaming this live on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. And you can certainly, on LinkedIn and YouTube anyway, you can comment and chat with us and back and forth, and we can interact. Twitter doesn't have the ability to do that, but you can watch on Twitter. And we're also going to do a gift exchange with each other. And this is Jamie's concept. I'm going to spoil it right now. We are actually going to send each other gifts, but not tell them what they are. We're going to open them live on the show, so that'll be fun.
It's our own
Yeah.
AVSF White Elephant. Yes.
Yes,
Like
we're gonna.
1 week and everything changes.
Actually, Larry, this took place when
You
you
went
were
away
on your
for a
phone call.
moment. We decided what we were
Actually,
doing for the next month.
You
and
took
half,
a phone call. We made decisions.
Yes.
Got some stuff done.
Yeah, so we're gonna. What's an office party without an awkward gift exchange? And we're gonna
The
do
awkward gift exchange with we'll set a limit, and then invariably everyone will go over that limit except that one person who's going to
needs to
exchange,
be-
a keychain.
It's
or something.
me. I'm that
And
guy.
Justin was gone too.
It needs to be awkward. I didn't know it needed to be awkward. I could do awkward.
Justin, we're not worried about you having
Yeah.
It's a gift exchange, but typically at the office they are awkward.
Yes.
Oh.
So put it on the
Okay.
calendar. Make sure you circle it, and it's going to be a big show for everybody. I look forward to having everybody there and hear from you. If you guys have something to say, you want to wish everybody happy holidays, whatever, let us know, and we'll maybe bring you on. Talk about it.
Yeah, so again, December 9th, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. The rest of you have to do the math because I have to do it all the time. So that's what fingers are for. I should get time zone tattoos on my fingers.
There you
That's
go.
a good idea. Ooh, that's a good.
Write that down.
Write that
Put
down
it in the
on my
notes.
fingers.
All right.
So, all right, so we'll take a quick break. We're going to come back, and Larry's going to tell us about some cool esports stuff, and do it now.
As many of you know, the Super Friends have always been better received when we have more input from you. So, here's your chance. Send us a note at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com and get involved with the show. We're looking for some topics to discuss, some fellow nerds to talk to, or just general AV awesomeness to brag about. But remember, we'll probably steal your ideas. And I suppose we'd take some criticism, but that wouldn't be very nice. Anyway, drop us a note at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com and find out how quickly we ask you to join this nonsense.
Well, you know what, Larry? I'm just going to turn it over to you. You guys built a very cool esports venue, and there's been some press about it. So what are your thoughts from the inside?
Yeah, lots of press, buddy.
Yeah, lots of press. Well, apparently I skipped a couple of shows to partake in some esports events. And as punishment for doing that, they sprung this on me earlier in the week. So we opened up our esports arena about a week before school went out last spring. So this is like our first real semester with all the students here and everybody's running events and everything. And it's been working really well. Like there's constantly students in there. Every time I go by, there's at least 10 to 30 all the time when they should be in class. So I have no idea how that works, but
So yours is open.
whatever.
Yours is open for use.
Oh yeah,
Like-
ours is open.
Because I see several. I've been to multiple institutions lately, and only a quarter of them leave them open, and most of them they're behind closed doors, and only the specials get to go in there.
Weird.
There are times when instructors can schedule classes. We actually have a religious professor who does a study on evil and morality in video games. And so he brings classes in there, and they'll block off a section of the room for that class.
How do they
But
get
for
the other
most
students
part,
out? Do they have to like walk around with like a hose and spray people?
Oh yeah. Well, if you just turn on the lights, pretty much they scatter.
Oh yeah, they're like vampires.
We're sorry for any of you gamers out there. We're going to apologize.
They're Cheetos and Mountain Dew in their darkness.
They know.
But there's the side of it that supports the students and the campus in general, and that's been working pretty well. But they've recently started also opening it up for events outside of the campus. Last weekend, there was an event called E2. It was a joint venture between Epic Games and the campus, and there was an Unreal Engine Accelerator Experience class that they brought in educators from K through 12 throughout the state. Pretty much anybody who wanted to come could come, learn how to use the Unreal Engine for classroom purposes from Epic instructors.
Are K-12s actually using Unreal Engine right now?
There are, I actually sat in that class because I was interested, and there were middle school and high school instructors in there who were in the process of developing things with the Unreal Engine.
I'm not surprised. I know there's studios that are out there. They're like far more advanced than what I have here.
Yeah, we have some high schools here that have that program, the game building program, and they're all using the Unreal Engines. And none of those kids are going to college because they all have jobs already.
They're millionaires already.
Yeah, seriously. Like if you know how to do Unreal, you don't have to attend school pretty much. But there's the game developers. There's also, I mean, if you watch Fox NFL Sunday, that whole studio is built in the Unreal Engine.
I didn't know. Cool.
They were showing us before the class, like all the industries that currently use the Unreal Engine. Mm-hmm. It touches so many things from fashion design to architecture to marketing. They were explaining how there are 90 different packages of Oreo cookies. And so rather than filming 90 commercials, they film one commercial and replace the package with the Unreal Engine and run that same commercial throughout every different country that those go in.
Oh, okay. So they don't. Okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about they needed all the 100 different products. You're saying there are 100 different versions of the product with the proper branding and languaging.
And they just and so that's
cool.
That one engine is just driving so much industry right now that having the opportunity to train educators on how to build with it, it's kind of cool. And what's cool is Epic has the software for free. You can go out there and download it for yourself. They have all the instructions on their website for free. And their only caveat is if you make a game or some product that earns more than $1 million, then once you top $1 million, they start getting 5%, which isn't a bad deal. So there was.
I thought you said once you top $1 million, they keep it.
Oh yeah, then it's theirs.
Yeah. Actually, once you hit $1 million, we own the rest of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's some licensing thing as part of that.
That's really cool. So you went through it. Are you going to use it? Do you have plans? Is this just this is really cool? What am I going to do?
I went through it because it kind of tied in with my grad program, where I'm looking at emerging technology that could be used in the classroom. This seemed to be a really nice fit. And so I was pretty jazzed afterwards, but I don't know if I have the time right now to get competent in it.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's definitely heavy.
And so I'm waiting until right now I'm taking 2 classes. I should get done with those classes in a couple weeks. I'm going to dive back into it and pick it up again. But they're also this experience, the Unreal Engine Accelerator experience, they're going to start doing it quarterly, and they're going to cover different topics. Our topics was just the basics, and then they taught us a little bit about Fortnite has their own creative aspect. We learned a little bit about that. And then for the second day, they put us back in the Unreal Engine to develop our own broadcast studios. And that was such a wide open sandbox that it kind of most of the class got lost a little bit. But it was just basically, let's show you everything that's possible and let you run with it.
It's part of the conversation with our our space, our venue that we had mentioned earlier, the Unreal Engine is part of that backbone plumbed to a supercomputer, to use a buzzword, that actually get some data set out of that, and that, how does that work and what that means just to our staffing. Like, we acknowledge that there's a whole FTE element of this now that is like the unknown. So what do we do, and who's doing that, and where does that fit in somebody's job right now? It's exciting, right? We're going to bring in knowledge base and people to do these things that we've never thought we'd be doing. So it's cool that you're actually out there diving in. I mean, it's probably coming soon to a training near me at some point, but I'm tiptoeing in right now.
And then in the evenings of those days, there was a Fortnite competition going on that was one of their national touring groups. So they were here for both nights. It's one of those things where you had to qualify online, and then once you qualified, you came to the show and did a elimination tournament. And we were broadcasting that over Twitch, all run by students, all that. What was interesting was we have a full-blown broadcast aspect to our arena. Like every desktop is routed back to our Blackmagic switcher where we can do all that. The games have a technical director position within the game. Mm-hmm. So they were using our cameras, but they were doing the in-game video feed capture through the video game. It was pretty wild.
Yeah. This is that whole piece of like the virtual workflow is really, there's something to be said about that. I think what we're seeing people be able to do without the need to have these giant studios. Don't get me wrong, you do need some hardware, but it's not what you would probably historically think you would need to do a high level broadcast anymore, just because of the new virtualized tool set.
Yeah, and just to wrap my head around it, I actually watched it on Twitch. It's the first thing I've ever watched on Twitch. And the quality that they were getting out, it looked like a produced show. They actually also built their own live studio in the Unreal Engine for the commentators to be in, even though, if you looked at their background, they were in the UNCG arena. So,
yeah. So, Chris, it's coming to every single classroom, buddy.
Every classroom.
Every single classroom will have this soon. So, Larry's going to school for it. He said it's coming. It's emerging trend.
Larry said he's dropping out of school because you don't need a degree to do this. So he's going to drop out of school.
Once you get good at it, there are jobs out there.
I've already quit my job now. So
this is that example we've been saying all along, is that, again, this is not brand new to the world. However, because it's driven from the student experience, all of a sudden it's relevant across the board. And I think this is just a good example of it. And it's really interesting that this video game technology, you can build classrooms. You can have the camera actually built into the video game in the built-in classroom. That's cool.
This makes me think, is there a world where students are producing the classes in real time?
In a world where
absolutely
produce the classes.
Where the instructor's there, the instructor's delivering their content, but the students are, and you have multiple different productions of the actual class going on.
One man.
I kind of wish that was more of a thing, because I think you would find
in Western Kentucky,
that
Justin.
Savvy students would do a better job of determining when it's important to see the instructor on camera and when it's important to see the content, when it's important to have picture-in-picture. And that student doesn't even have to be a broadcast major. That could just be some kid that's sitting there, and they don't have to pay him. And I think it would be a lot better, but they don't like giving up that control of the students are choosing what the content is. It's interesting.
Extra credit,
but
if you get extra credit if you run this switcher.
No, yeah. So if the classroom experience is becoming more like a show, and Jamie, we've talked about it before. You have these actors; they're doing their thing. There's this multimedia experience. Is it that far-fetched to believe that you would have students that may have preferred streams of those classes that other students would rather attend versus just attend the instructor's bland version that they may be delivering?
I don't know. It depends on the show.
I wish we could get that way.
Because our shows here at WKU, they're more like the opera, where it's like no cameras and flashing allowed, and it's, in-person experience
Do you
only.
have a problem with people flashing in your classes?
Yeah. Sometimes.
Only at the opera. If you go to the heavy metal one, their tops are off.
Exactly. And we're not that heavy metal band where cameras allowed,
I think the faculty would be much more comfortable delivering their message too. There's some pretty kick-ass faculty out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, they don't have to worry about the tech.
I think they're hindered by this medium. And if they had somebody else that was basically their stage crew, I think we'd get a lot better content, but people just are not willing to go that way.
Well, I think you're overstating that a little bit in the fact that you're saying they would do a better job of switching or managing the technology. Right now, the instructor isn't managing the technology. Like, no one is thinking about the production of the show. They're thinking about the message. Having anyone worry about the production would be great.
If the whole students teaching students element, right? If here I am in this class, here's my camera. I have access to that via my application in the LMS. I have the content stream. I have the back channel communication, and I have a keen eye for show flow. What's stopping a student from spinning up their History 101 class, whatever it is, Twitch channel, say, hey, you want to see my stream of this class? Join here. Go ahead. Here it is. And you have multiple students actually creating these streams of the classes because they're better produced. Why not?
Could you imagine the freak out from administration if that started going on? I mean, right now, let's pretend this is pirate radio, not organized. Like this is some student is just really good at putting this all together and is out streaming all this content through YouTube, chat, Twitch, Discord, whatever. And all the mind blowing. Oh my God, this is FERPA. This is content distribution when we didn't want it. Could you just create an explosion? And you'd be like, well, wait, that kid is actually doing a really cool thing. Yeah,
but remember, we talked about the no classroom. Does that change how we think about the learning space in the future? If you had a bunch of these quasi studios built in where you had the front of the classroom, cameras, no seats, nobody's there, but all your streams are available online, isn't that really like the promise of AV over IP to get that application level access to all this media? And you could have students come in and produce their own shows and never need to be in the room and have preferred streams of that show. I think it's a brave new world. Like I'm you know what? I'll push all my chips in on that right now. That's happening.
I just wrote that down for a space I'm going to be designing as a test space for future classroom renovations. I'm going to put some of this production capability in there. Mm-hmm. And if they never use it, at least it's there, but it's an option.
But think about how that changes how faculty, like where they can and can't be. Like if you had a virtual studio in your house and you were just a traveling for hire instructor and you have the prerequisite, though, yeah, I have an IP camera, I have content here, I have a green screen space, I can produce and deliver your content wherever. I have high bandwidth uplink. Yep, students can produce it. I will teach your curriculum wherever. Do you even need the faculty to be in and on campus anymore?
Well, I mean, that reminds me of
questioning the status quo, and you're about to be canceled.
That reminds me of a Chuck Espinoza video he put out where he converted his truck into a mobile office, and it was kind of a little redneck, but it worked. So yeah, you could teach from anywhere.
These are really cool things, and it all stems from Larry's class of esports.
A couple questions for Larry, not on the software side, but on the hardware side. Because this is a long, any AV project of this scope and scale is a long, probably multi-year project. In 2022, if you were to build if they said, Larry, this is great, we want another one, would you do it exactly the same, or were there some changes you would make to it that, hey, we put in all the stuff, we never use it, or we went with this brand X and it's a pain in the butt, or what would that look like? What would Rev 2 look like?
The biggest thing I would change between Rev 1 and Rev 2 is we didn't know like how big it was going to be and how many other groups would be using it. And so we kind of had the shout desk, which is where they do the show from. That's where the switching, all the audio controls, that's where everything is. So that whoever's commentating can run the show from there. That's great up to a point. When we had like the big Fortnite team there, we ended up like having our little strategy area converted to their production area. I didn't envision a real control room when this was done the first time, but we're using it to train students how to become commentators, how to run video production, how to run shows. I think part of that experience is a real control room. And so even though everything can be done within the game itself, having the experience of working within a control room, I think, is important. And I would like that even as an addition to this space.
Fair enough. I think
I think
it's
that's
awesome.
Good insight.
Yeah. Got that, Chris?
You certainly got farther down the esports road than any of the rest of us. So it's a conversation that comes up here about once every 6 months, like clockwork.
Yeah. So I don't know, I'm excited. I think it's making me think of some
new things.
We have
a little studio, but it's kind of be part of the gang kind of studio. It's not. So I'm not part of the gang.
Oh.
Do you feel left out?
It's okay.
You wish they would include you?
Your feelings
okay.
were hurt.
Yeah, well.
Just a little. I mean, I took up many bad habits, but that's all right. I'll make it.
Unplug their network for them.
Yeah. Hey, tune into the live show coming up. Circle the date in your calendars.
Happy Thanksgiving!
Well, we've managed to ruin yet another episode of AV Super Friends Off the Rails. You can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. If you complain loud enough, we might just invite you on the show.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV Super Friends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.